I won't date a woman who did not have her father there ever.
Your family is what creates your conditioning. And your conditioning creates how you respond to certain stimuli, in your life. So if you had parents, you knew they loved you because of their actions, but they never said it, you are likely to be a person that shows your love by doing things versus always saying, "Hey, I love you," or "Hey, I'm thinking about you." There's a correlation, between how you're raised and how you react. I think if you have trauma, hopefully that's something you can work through and not have that bleed into your relationship. But it takes a lot of probably self realization, and a lot of like awareness and work
Or it can
to move
affect
away
you.
from that.
It can affect you in the opposite way. Like you
Yeah,
don't have to.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Because I mean, you could show love the way your parents show love, or you can be like, well, that was a problem for me because I would really like someone to say, hey, I love you. Have a good day at school. So that you often say, I love you to those who you love just on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, I think that personally people either, you know, I guess I'm agreeing with both of you.
Ooh.
I do think that
Timestamp.
right? I think that people do respond one or the other way. There's a lot of people who didn't have a parent in their household, whether it had been their mother or their father. So they strive to be whatever they imagine that person would be, right? So the lack of, I guess, family in that aspect is actually motivation for them to be whatever that they, truly felt like they needed. Now, one issue is that I think we oftentimes have is sometimes we try to be something that we always wanted for someone that doesn't need the same things that we needed. And so we may feel like they're not appreciative or they don't understand our love. Or maybe we might even feel like we're over loving, but realistically, we're just trying to see ourselves in them. And they're their own person with their own experience and desires.
I agree. I personally think that I used to be a person that would only date people who had good relationships with their relatives or, their mothers. But sometimes people don't have good relationships with their family based on what they had to endure growing up, their childhood. Some people probably didn't have good relationships with their mother. So you may hear someone being disrespectful to their mother. But I don't think that that necessarily means that they will be disrespectful to all women or to, end the relationship. I think it all depends on where people come from and what they had to deal with in, their upbringing. So that's kind of my take on it.
You know what I just realized too? Like, people be like, oh, the way a man treats his mom is a good indication of how he's going to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
And they be like, no, that ain't true.
Right.
Because a lot of times that mom did not know how to parent. A lot of times that mom was not really a qualifying mother for that individual. And so she could be reaping, what she sowed and how she treated that kid since he was a kid or whatever times that he needed her and she did not show up. So I think that sometimes the correlation are not, synonymous.
Sorry, you want me to shut?
I was gonna say, they're not synonymous. That's what I was saying.
I think sometimes it has like a reverse effect. So if you had an upbringing where your mom did neglect you or didn't show you love, you may have ill feelings towards the people that mistreated you, but that may have you that may make you want to it's like you desire love or you desire relationships or you desire a healthy relationship with someone. So I think it doesn't always mean it's a bad thing if they don't have a relationship with their parent. It may mean that they're looking for something that they never had and maybe they can find it.
I think mine is going to be a little bit more different than a correlation of their actual relationship, but I won't date a woman who did not have her father there ever. I will never do it.
Right.
Because like, especially now as a father of a girl, I understand how impactful that love is. And I understand like the way my daughter looks at me, she will never look at no one else that way, not even her own mother. So if that is absent in a woman, I feel like that is potentially a recipe for disaster for her to go down the wrong path. It's a void that I believe can't be filled by anything else. It doesn't matter how much money, it doesn't matter about a step parent, it doesn't matter how good it is. It's something that is empty that she may never know that it's empty, but it's an emptiness within inside that is has a lot of potential to be detrimental to that person's character in day-to-day life. And I don't want to take on that burden dealing with that because I know that there's nothing that I can do to help fill that void. I mean, it is because somebody else's pain is like,
I was about to say, well, if you don't want to date someone that you know is going to be a burden to you,
but you don't know it until you're dealing with it, and then you're like, well, you
There
start to
have to
ask.
be red flags.
Well, yeah, but we think that the red flags could be like it's like the doctors. You can have a cough and you could be like, okay, it's a cold, and it turns out that it's cancer. You know what I'm saying? Like it goes both ways. It's like I thought I could cure this, and I thought it wasn't that bad until you realize that this is life threatening, and oftentimes you don't really know until you persist and keep on going, and as you keep on going, you're gonna develop feelings, and you're gonna actually shit. You might even develop a family with this person.
You got to be able to
Well, I
walk
have to-
away if the shit don't work.
what
for
if
though.
you
I have
have a
to-
girl who just has a bad relationship with her father? Not that the father was absent, but it wasn't the most impactful relationship in her life. What now?
I dated a girl who had a bad relationship with her father, and the bad relationship with her father, I was there while she was going through this bad relationship with her father, right? Her father and her mother started getting divorced, and her mother was basically feeding her all of the negative information about her father, and ultimately she started hating her father, right? And throughout the course, I dated her for 2 years, and throughout the course, I felt like, and this is just my opinion from the outside looking in, as just a recipient, I felt like I started being treated different. But like she started looking at men differently because of her father, because of what her mother was saying about her father. And we started having problems, and that eventually ended. So I think that it's having a bad relationship with your parent. It could be beneficial. Like sometimes people use it as motivation, and we do see all these success stories and whatnot. But I personally, I'm not trying to take on that. Like I'm
I
not
have
trying
so
to-
much to say. I don't know where to begin. My brain is just like literally.
Is
I'm not gonna say that your opinion isn't valid, but being a woman that was raised by my mother, and my dad was around when I was a kid, but once he did get incarcerated, it just sucks that you could say that basically a woman that was raised by just her mother is not as she's not as she doesn't deserve the love from a man. Yeah, she didn't have that man that protect. That's basically what you're saying. Like,
I didn't say it. Hey
no, it's
man,
just saying
I said this man.
this man, and that's fine. But it sucks that men would look at a woman like that because she was raised by her mother. Because I think of the outstanding job my mother did with me and how she made sure that she provided tremendously, and I had great male role models around me. And I don't think that having a father or not having a father would have made me like I think that it depends on the morals that your mother puts into you. It depends on what she builds in your life for you. I was in the best schools. I was in extracurricular activities after school. My mom did a really good job shaping me. So just speaking for the women who are out here raising kids alone because a man wasn't able to either step up and take the responsibility or make sure that his child was a priority, it's unfair because it's now like kids are being looked at as not as I don't even know the word for it. Yeah, like less than because if a woman didn't have a father, it's a lot of women that are getting touched by their dads. There's a lot of women who are getting mistreated by their dads, abusing the mothers in the home, putting trauma on the girls because they're fighting them, cheating on them, leaving them. There's so many different things that men are doing in these relationships. So it's not always good that the guy is in the home if he's not a good man. There's a lot of men in the home, dads, but they're not fathers. So a lot of people are not even getting the proper upbringing that you might think just because it's a two-family home. It could be a lot of trauma going on in the household as well with fathers.
I'm not going to disagree on, just traumatic people bringing on traumatic situations to other
Mhm.
people. But what I will say is like, all right, if you think about it, you had extracurricular activities, you played sports.
Mhm.
Did you still miss your dad?
I miss my dad. He wrote me letters.
That, but that's what I'm saying. What happens is, as the
I
other
miss my dad,
parent,
but I did have, someone that came in and did also like fill the void of that and also did a great job and also like made me understand, what it's like to have that male. I had a role model in my life and someone who was a provider, someone who's a protector, someone I could run to, someone who like he was like my hero. Like when once I didn't have my dad anymore, so I just don't think it's always just a negative thing if a woman, I mean, if a kid doesn't have, if a woman doesn't have her father in her life. Because just like for you, you had someone else step in and stand in place for you not having your dad, correct?
yeah, and that's why I'm telling you that's bullshit. Because we can sit here and we can try to mask it up and make dog shit look like caviar all we want. At the end of the day, there's nothing that could fill that void. Your parent, my mom was a single mom, your mom was a single mom at one point, right? Our parents put us in extracurricular activities, basically busy work, right? Like it's going to shape you. But if you are too, like when you're a kid and you don't have that other parent and you're asking where they are, you want to know. And even if
But
they
that's like
told you,
saying you today are a failure because you didn't have your biological father. That's like saying you today are not a great man because you're a great man, you're a great father, you're a great provider, you're a person that comes to work and does what you have to do, and you are successful in life. So what does you having your biological father have to do with who you are today? If you were raised properly, or if you life is going to shape you and
I
mold
also was
you.
arrested 3 times.
Well, you
I
here today.
also, yeah, but by the
Were you
grace,
convicted?
I was and convicted
That's
once.
actually the.
I was convicted once and arrested
Did you
twice.
do
I think
jail
three
time?
And
times.
people with fathers
No,
go through
All
the
right.
same thing. People with
but
fathers
that's
go through
because I
worse.
had
People kill
money.
their parents. People have two family homes and kill their
But
parents.
wait,
People
I'm
go
not
through.
going into I'm not getting into the semantics with you today.
Yes, you are,
Right?
because guess what? I'm not
Let's
done.
stay on
Going in
topic.
the hole.
That we're not saying that you're a bad
hole.
person, and I'm not saying that you can't succeed in life because you don't have a parent. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you end up going through the same cycle that has been really in place for people to go through. So as a woman, not you,
Mhm.
but women tend to become more promiscuous, or they tend to become emotionally undeveloped and unintelligent. As a man, you don't tap. Oh, I can't speak for all men, but as this man, I didn't tap into emotions. I didn't care about emotions. Emotions did not mean nothing to me. And then guess what? I mean, I was also in a survival mindset too. So now I had two things against me that I'm trying to battle and overcome. A lot of people don't make it out. I am one. You are one. But a lot of people do not make it out.
I
I,
think your view on people with
was about to
women with fathers and women that don't have fathers is just a little tainted because that's the kind of I mean that's what would be politically correct, right?
I think it's fair. Just like you saying, I will not date a woman whose daddy wasn't around to raise her well or whatever. It's just like a woman saying, I'm not dating a man who don't have no money.
Mhm.
I'm not dating a man
money?
who can't pay a mortgage. As a baseline, I'm not dating a man who, doesn't have a certain type of career because his career doesn't mesh with my world. His career, his friends, his X, Y, and Z, whatever. So you having that preference is 1000% fair because you don't want to do the labor of it.
Mm.
Just like a woman will say, I don't want to deal with the labor of being with a broke man. I don't want to pay my own mortgage.
I just want to jump in your body.
Thank you. You know what I'm saying? So I have nothing against what Rico was saying because all it is a preference, and we're all entitled to that. However, I had a question
Mhm.
to both of y'all because I wanted to understand. I just want a point of clarification. Is it a girl who did not have a father for whatever reason, or is it a girl who had a father who chose not to raise her, who chose not to be involved? Because you could have a father that dies, a father that
got incarcerated.
I wouldn't say die.
incarcerated, who's mentally unstable, unfit to even raise a child. Like, so is it more so like the parents that literally could have been there and they choose not to, or is it just all of them?
I would say 75% of all. There are very few reasons, like obviously like the death. If like let's say you were 3 years old when your father passed away, that's that's entirely different. He was there, whatever have you. 9 times out of 10, the mother is there to probably tell good stories about your father, and you can live with a certain amount of peace with that. When we're talking about a father who was never there, a father who came in and left, a father who may have been arrested, and let's just say he did, I don't know, 15 years, and then when he comes back out, he's still the same person. Really, because that kills their hope on trying to really bond with them for the first time. You can acquire money. You can acquire money, right? Throughout time, throughout work ethic. There's certain ways for you to make money, right? So I don't view it the same type of preference. I believe that's like apples and oranges. They're both fruit, but it's a different type. When you have something that is outside of your means, like I don't think a man who never had a mother, right? On the opposite flip, a woman's gonna want to deal with that man either.
I don't really think that I was trying to challenge you. I was just trying to ask if it would be the same outcome, because in all of the examples that Aaron gave just now, I feel like they could have the same outcome if the father died, if the father just chose not to be there, if the father was incarcerated. It doesn't even matter how old the parent was. You said 3 years old. That's still majority of that girl's life not having a father. It can still be the same outcome as her not having a dad at all. I do feel like there would be a difference, like Jada said, if someone had stepped in and like maybe the mom got remarried or something. Now she has a father figure in her life and she's grown up with a man in her household. So, maybe I don't want to be outlandish with how, what the outcome would be of a girl without a father, but sometimes maybe a girl can be promiscuous because they don't really know how to be around a man, or maybe they're just like desperate for like a man's attention, or anything of the sort. Maybe that wouldn't happen so often if there was a stepfather or somebody else to raise that child. Now, when I said if you did have a father and you have a bad relationship with your dad, I can see that having the same result, because it's like, fuck niggas, right? Like,
Right.
All
like,
bad.
yeah,
That's
because
what I was
if I
thinking.
never had a dad, I would be like, yo, fuck men. Men don't be around. I never had a dad, blah, blah, blah. But if I had a father in my own household and me and him never got along, and I feel like he like don't give a fuck, or he would just be like treating my mom bad, and I just got to witness all of this other like stuff, and I'm just don't be rocking with my dad like that. So it's still fuck niggas. So I'm still gonna go outside and do whatever I want. I'm still gonna have the same like outcome as if he was never here, because he's not really doing anything to impact my life, which actually I did say,
Positively.
yeah, positively. Which was my point before. I did say that. I said,
Yeah,
yeah, because I
twice.
felt like I finished this point already.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that a dad with a bad relationship in your household can be have the same negative impact on a female as not having a dad at all.
Your dad passed away at 3 from some type of, God forbid, cancer, and he was a good man to your mother. If your mother is raving about your father, I highly doubt the odds are not in your favor to come out with that negative mindset. Now, when your father chooses not to be there, or when he chooses to make a terrible decision that impacts his freedom, which then again you're affected by that, it's a different type of first impression that you have on men, and you run with that hurt for a very long time, because you don't, as a kid, you don't know how to identify it. Then once you learn how to identify it, you don't know how to express it. And then once you finally learn how to express it, you don't know how to handle it and cope with it. And then that by that time you're 18, and you have probably made 3 or 4 mistakes by then. So that's why the odds are not in your favor. And then usually those mistakes, every single mistake that we make, whether it be from our families to blame, or whether it be our surroundings to blame, our environment to blame, those mistakes chip away at our innocence, they chip away at our conscience, and they chip away at our character. And we can sit here and think that we can, heal ourselves back to being full again after you done had 25 years of hardships, and 7 of those 25 years are your fault that you don't want to accept because you blamed your father or you blamed your mother or you blamed your surroundings. Now you're 25 to 30 years old walking around with these flawed characteristics that we always talk about, these flawed personalities, and then life is not in your favor at all. And then we sit here and then we try to justify our pain, or justify our resentment. And when you do that, you'll never, ever, ever be healed, especially healed enough for a healthy relationship, because you want somebody to love you through that. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but that's walking up a steep hill that never ends until you decide to cut it off.
So do you think you not having fathers is why you want your woman to propose?
Nah, but the thing is, and again, my mother was the first impression that I had as a woman. My mom never compromised her morals. My mom never got naked and to get money. My mom went.
Yeah, you don't know what your mama was
Right,
doing.
you never know.
child.
But
My mom had me at 17 years old. I was with my mom every day. We were homeless together. We rocked together.
You didn't have
Listen, my mom went
from your dad,
bro,
though. So you
Okay, listen.
look at
I'm
things
telling you the
too.
story of Rico's life. Y'all was not there, right?
just
So,
saying.
so my mom worked, and when my mom couldn't when my mom couldn't spend time with me, she was my substitute teacher. My mom was my coach.
it worked for you. That's what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is the first impression of a woman is to make the sacrifice for men just as much as you will have to make a sacrifice for her. So no, I won't accept a woman coming in and doing the bare minimum, because the first woman in my life maxed out.